Hello, everyone. I am Drew Taylor, and I'm a film reporter at TheWrap covering animation, and we are so happy to have you here for the Oscar-nominated animated features showcase. Before we introduce our guests, let us take a look at these amazing films.
真人さん行きましょう。
お待ちしておりましたぞ。
Sorry. I'm Wade.
I'm Ember.
The Queen Killer is still out there.
Everyone is scared. He's a murderer.
He's a monster.
He's perfect. Hey, boss.
Who are you?
The name's Nimona. Your sidekick has arrived.
I don't need a sidekick.
Every villain needs a sidekick.
I'm not a villain! The real villain is still out there, and I do need help.
And then, who do you want to kill first?
What?
Look, I can help you, but promise me you won't freak out.
Why would I trust you?
Promise!
I promise!
Even when you see the horn?
Horn!
Promise!
I promise, I will not freak! Oh.
This is the part where you run.
They call me Hell. They call me Stacey.
You're a shapeshifter.
They call me Hell.
Monster attack.
They call me Jane.
Monster attack.
That's not my name.
You did that on purpose.
You catch on quick, boss.
That's not my name.
Something, something, something. We win.
I'm Mr. Cat if they throw me the ball.
If anyone can find them, it's me.
They call me Hell. They call me Stacey.
Ambrosius really thinks I'm a murderer.
That's not my name.
You got betrayed by someone you trusted. Because once everyone sees you as a villain,
That's not my name.
that's what you are.
Do you think he saw us?
Yes.
Why are you running around with a monster?
Don't call her that!
The world kicks you around sometimes. But together, we can kick it back.
Mona! Smart, kind, and sophisticated!
That guy just beat his armor! He beat his armor! Oh, I like where this is going.
Let's break stuff.
Promise I'm your official sidekick forever and ever. No take-backsies.
Can you just be you?
I don't follow.
None of this makes sense.
Look, boss, it's simple. If you like something, thumbs up. If you don't like it, thumbs down. Who has 4 thumbs and is really great at liking stuff?
I can hear you being quiet, Mom.
I hope I didn't ice your game, man.
No one my age says those words in that order.
It's just hard to see my little man not being my little boy all the time.
Yeah.
For years, I've been taking care of this little boy. Making sure he is loved, that he feels like he belongs wherever he wants to be. He wants to go out into the world and do great big things.
Not bad, kid.
And what I worry about most
I love you, Miles.
is they won't look out for you like us.
Miles! Want to get out of here?
Wherever you go from here, you have to promise to take care of that little boy for me. Make sure he never forgets where he came from. And he never doubts that he is loved. And he never lets anyone tell him that he doesn't belong there. You gotta promise, Miles.
I promise.
Who do you think you are? Really?
We are supposed to be the good guys.
We are.
Welcome back. It is my pleasure to introduce Elemental director Peter Sohn, Nimona director Nick Bruno, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse director Kemp Powers, Robot Dreams director Pablo Berger, and The Boy and the Heron producer and co-founder of Studio Ghibli, Toshio Suzuki. This is the cream of the crop right here. But I really wanted to know, 2023 was one of the most amazing years of animation, I think. And I wanted to know how it feels to be recognized among those other incredible films.
I thought you said Korean crop at first. And so
it's not all about Korea.
Look, it's so much of it has been getting to know the other filmmakers on this sort of back end of the life of a film. And, it just feels like a privilege and an honor. And, it's also bittersweet. Like, this is the sort of the end days of the journey of a film. And as lucky as I feel like we are here, I'm already like holding tight to the hand of the film. I'm like, oh, I'm going to miss you, But, feeling super lucky. How about y'all?
It's really humbling, honestly, because I love all of these. I love all of these films. I'm a huge fan, and there's actually several other films that weren't nominated that I love just as much. I so much loved like Suzume. I so much loved Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. There were so many great films that came out this year. So I think humbling is really, just to stand out in what was just, I think, a great year in film in general. There were just so many great things, and I found myself, emotionally connected to and moved, and honestly dazzled by like the array of different styles in the animated films. I love that like none of our films look like one another at all. It's so cool how the visual and the storytelling diversity. Pablo's film has no dialogue. Like how cool is it to have such a great array of films? It really excites me.
Nick, give me your thoughts.
I typically don't have thoughts. I'm a very simple person.
That checks out. Yeah.
Yeah. No, listen, it's been an amazing ride. I think, these guys already said it really well. And, just the journey of the film, you love it. You have a lot of fun making it. And then we've been fortunate enough to be able to celebrate it even longer than you usually get to. And, just being able to sit and hang out with these guys along the ride has been like a dream come true as well. So far, so good.
いや、名誉ですよね。で、どういうことかって言ったらね、何しろ監督が、現在83歳。ところが、若さにみなぎった作品を作ったっていうことで、そこら辺がね、評価の対象になったのかなと思うと、僕はすごい嬉しかったです。
Pablo, this is your first animated film, and you're in the mix with these guys. What has that been like?
Yeah, I'm the new in the bunch. I feel like a first-time director, although this is my fourth film. I took out 20 years. I feel like I'm 40 or 35 right now. I'm very excited. I'm really, really excited. You guys, I see the connections that you have between them. I made this Spanish-French co-production, and that you accept me in the group, is so exciting. I met Guillermo del Toro at Annecy this year, and we talked so much about live action animation. And he's right. Once you try it, you cannot take it away. I'm with you guys. I'm one of us. I want to keep making animation film. It really opened my mind. So for me, it's huge honor to meet all of you. You have a career behind. This is just my first film.
Well, I think we're all excited to see what your next animated film is going to look like. Kemp, you said it beautifully, but each of these movies is so different. And I was wondering, what are you most proud of with the film that you just finished?
With Spider-Verse, that we pulled it off, to be perfectly honest, because making that film really did feel, from a production standpoint, like making like 5 or 6 films at the same time. And it can be really easy, I think, to get lost in all of the sizzle and there not be any stake. But I'm actually really proud that people connected to the characters and the story. It's something that I learned when I was working at Pixar alongside Peter Sohn here, is that animation can't save you. You have to get the story to work in 2D storyboards, and you have to understand it. You have to connect to the characters, and before you do all that. And I'm so proud that we didn't lose sight of it while still trying to do so many unusual things visually that honestly none of us had ever done before.
Yeah, and the same question to everybody else. What are you most proud of about your individual film?
The thing I'm genuinely most proud of is that with Nimona, representation matters, right? And a nomination and potentially a win would be a huge deal. Not that I need an award, nor does the amazing group of people I work with, because we're already proud of what we've done. But, you know, a win for representation would be huge, because we make movies for families, we make it stuff, but like our biggest audience is kids, and just talking about kids it's tremendously important for them to see themselves represented on screen. And I think all these films this year do a great job of that. And why that's important is when you see yourself represented, it helps remind you you're not alone in the world. And at this point in history, no one needs more love and representation than trans kids, right? Nimona really tackles a lot of those issues. These are kids whose lives are literally in danger. And because for some reason, LGBTQ plus rights have been a political issue. And unfortunately, with the repeat election coming up, Trump and his shithead friends who enable what he believes in continue to attack these kids simply for being who they are. So it's been very important for us to get that representation out. And unfortunately, it hasn't been easy because, we've had a lot of people try to hold us back. But luckily, we had a very real-life superhero who saved our movie. Megan Ellison at Annapurna Pictures also believes that representation matters and saved our film from being killed. So it's a big deal because, again, kids need us. Kids need these movies. Kids need love and protection, and sometimes they need it now. So that's why I'm proud of this film.
Nick, my heart feels everything you're talking about. So much of the film, rested on stories that were from people's hearts in terms of experiences that they've lived. And in Elemental, this particular experience of coming from being a foreigner and trying to understand your identity in that way. There was, we talked to so many people on our crew that sort of shared in that. And I feel like the thing I'm most proud of is, trying to harness and honor all of those stories and boil it into something that you can feel and have it last with you. And look, this journey for this film has been really an insane roller coaster ride. And so, in its theatrical sort of journey, it just looked like, oh, this heart that we put together just isn't going to connect, and then it slowly did, and it just a testament to the love that the crew put into the film in terms of trying to reach for that representation, for that empathy, and for these experiences that we so lovingly put into the film. But that sort of connection is, fills me up.
抽象的な言い方になっちゃうんですけれど、現代を描くことができた。それが一番僕としては誇りに思えるんですかね。だから宮崎駿がね、古びていない、それを映画を一緒に作りながら、そして完成したものを見て、今の時代に通用する。それが一番嬉しかったです。
I'm proud of many things about this film. The first thing is that we made it, and that we created 2 pop-up studios. And you remember the movie The Sting, Paul Newman and Robert Redford. So we bought the computers, we got software, we find animators all over Europe. And we did it in the middle of the pandemia because we didn't want it to do remote. So everybody had masks. So actually that we made it, I'm very proud of that. That was the most difficult, to create a studio out of nothing just to make this film. But of course, in a deep way, I'm very proud of in the era of avatars and Zooms and remotes, that we were able to get people to come to see our film in the cinemas. It has not been released in the States, but it's been released in Spain and France and many European countries. And talking with the audience and coming to me and tell me, while I was watching your film, I made so many substitutions. I was dog, I thought about my friend, I thought about ex-lover, my parents, and especially I'm thinking about one person that came to me the other day. She came to me and she said, Pablo, you saved my life. And I said, come on. You said, you saved my life. She said, I just broke with my boyfriend. I'm robot. And I've been watching your film every day for the last 3 days. And, it's helping me. So, how can you feel better, that you make movies that kind of like, people kind of overcome like the difficulties of life,
Well, I was going to ask, Pablo, you covered this very beautifully, but what surprised you all the most about the response to your films?
Well, the funny thing is that for me, as I said before, this is my 4th film. So it was amazing when I finished the animatic after 1 year working in animatic to see that the film was there before it got into production with the animators. So, that part of seeing the film before it was already made, it was really amazing for me, because when you make live action, you shoot, there's so many variables, everything goes so fast, you're like a clown in a wild bull, not going like this, and then you finish, and then you go to the editing room, and the film probably has nothing to do with what you thought, what you did. So the amazing thing about what you guys do, or what I do now as an animation director, is that, I was able to do this kind of like, very carefully, very thoughtful. It's the first time that my film is pretty close with what I dream. And it would give me such an amazing satisfaction. I'm even surprised why not there are many more live action directors giving a shot, because it really is an amazing media. I really, guys, I wish I had made it even before and it made a film.
Peter, you and I have talked about the response to the movie and how you were sort of taken aback by it, but I was wondering, what part of that response sort of surprised you the most?
The emotional connection has been surprising in the different ways that even Pablo is talking about, in terms of the relationships of falling in love with someone that's very different culturally from you, or the idea of a father and a daughter relationship. But I think I have been most surprised with my understanding of what this journey was going to be, and I've talked to several of you about this, but the personal side of the loss of my parents in this. Look, at the end of the film, there's this photo of my parents in the credits that people have come up to me to talk to me about, their, gratefulness for trying to understand their parents as people. And the surprising part of that is that as this film is, in its journey is coming to sort of an end here, I am missing my parents more. And I'm sort of surprised that, like, this sort of an award ceremony and this type is somehow tied to closure with my parents. And so I've been really surprised by trying to understand the film that we made and its sort of life in how it's connecting, but then and how that evolves and how I've been sort of evolving with it. I'm curious if that's been true for all of you, in terms of how you have a certain image of what your relationship will be like with a film, but then as it continues to grow, it sort of changes, and that's been surprising.
One, I gotta say for Pete, which is interesting, because watching your film was cool to me, because most people don't know, but Pete's parents owned and operated an art store in White Plains, New York. There weren't many of that. I grew up around there, and as a kid, that's where I went for all my art supplies. So there was this very strange interaction with the movie, whereas, and such great people. So I just had to share that, because it made it more beautiful to me in that way.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, you're awesome. Yeah,
welcome, buddy. An experience I had that I didn't. Yeah, it's funny that you say it that way, because you make these things and you kind of hope for certain things to happen, and little things happen that you didn't see or foresee happening that like really strike you? For me on this journey, you know, the Nimona was created off of a graphic novel by N.D. Stevenson. N.D. Stevenson is a trans man, a great friend. And when he was younger, before he could totally understand what was going on in his life, he started making a comic and put that comic out into the internet, the universe, and didn't expect anything to come back. But essentially was telling the story from his heart of just like how he's feeling and how he's navigating his own kingdom, a kingdom where he felt marginalized and, you know, other. And over time, people responded well to that comic. People responded well to when it became a graphic novel. And now that it's a movie, going on this press tour with him, seeing all these kids come back to ND after any one of our Q&As has been the most profound and heartwarming experience. To just see this one kid put out a message in the bottle and never expected anything in return, and how many people have that experience out there, and just how much people need to connect. And it's a great privilege to be able to do that with movies, and you know, and sometimes it's just helping, you know, amplify a voice, amplify a heart. And that's, you know, what I realized what we did with this film.
僕の個人的な意見なんですけれど、ね。いや、アメリカで大ヒットしたと聞いて、一体それは何なんだろうって僕なりに考えてみたんですよね。で、考えた結論は、まあ、宮崎駿ったらもともとそういう成功があるんですけれどね、終末感っていうものに対して非常に敏感な人なんですよね。で、そういうことで言うと、今回の映画は、ね、宮崎駿の黙示録になってるんじゃないかと。僕はそう思いました。だから、アメリカの人が見ればね、一種聖書なんじゃないか。そんなふうに僕は思ってました。まあ、何しろ10年間というのは、すごいね、長い時間だから、僕は一方で忘れられちゃうんじゃないかなっていうことをね、心配したんですけれど、でも、この間に、やっぱりいろんな人が見てくれる、ね、きっかけになったのは、映画の配信。これで、まあね、それはアメリカのみならず世界中でそういうことが起きたんですけれど、まあ、配信によって過去のいろんな作品を世界のいろんな人が見てくれた。それがね、まあ、アメリカでのヒットにもね、つながった一つの要因だと僕はそう思ってます。
What's funny, as we were making Across the Spider-Verse, one of the things that we were all so worried about was that fans would be excited about seeing all this action, and that we were making a movie that had so many, we called it people in rooms talking. We were like really worried that people were going to tune out whenever there were people in rooms talking, but those were the moments in the film that we felt like we needed and were important. And one of the things that surprised me the most is the number of people who came up to us afterwards, and those quiet moments of people talking are their favorite parts of the film. And that was really gratifying, because we didn't want to make a movie that was just about crashing and bashing. I mean, one thing that everyone's talking about here are like really universal themes, things that we can all understand. The journey of Across the Spider-Verse was really meant to be our attempt at doing a coming of age story for both kids and their parents at the same time. You know, because when your kid comes of age, you as a parent also have to come of age with this adolescent who's becoming a young adult. It helps that not just myself, but, you know, my co-directors and a lot of the people, you know, in our core group are all parents as well. And many of us are parents of teenagers. I mean, I've said it several times before, but I felt like I was living Jefferson Miles's dad, what he was going through with my own son as I was making this movie. Even the fact that I was making a Spider-Verse movie, I could not get this kid to talk to me. I was like, this was my best friend. And it was, you know, it's part of the growing process. You know, kids come into their own and they have to exercise their own independence. And as parents, you know, we get so defensive because when they're really little, they're like our little buddies. So there we felt that we were worried but hopeful that this universal theme of like families and parenting would get through to everyone. And even though it's through the prism of like an Afro-Latino kid in Brooklyn, New York, we felt like, what person in the world doesn't want the things that the characters in our film want? And it was incredibly satisfying just because of how different our film was from the original film. The first film was, you know, anyone can wear the mask. And, you know, our thesis for this one is it's how you wear that mask that matters, you know? And it was we were like, man, is that a little bit too murky for people to really get? But I was really humbled and surprised by the fact that people got it. And we got to do some things with animation that we're usually discouraged from doing, having, you know, long takes and close-ups and pauses and quiet moments. You guys know how when we're cutting an animation, we are efficient. And to be able to linger in these moments that often you only get to do it in live action, and people accepting it was pretty tremendous.
Well, each of your movies went on quite a journey, some more tumultuous than others. Nick, I'm looking in your direction. But what did you all learn from the process of making these amazing films?
You know, I can start, okay? The thing is that I love to hear you guys. I have to make a comment. I have a 20-year-old daughter, so I must say most of your films, they have that teenage, you know, and I connect with that part of your films very much, and especially with the Spider-Verse. You know, there's an element that, you know, when I saw those moments of quiet, I felt very close. I saw myself identify. But going to the point, what I learned, and as I said, this is my fourth film, and every time I'm learning more about one specific thing. When I made my first film, I thought, what was a director supposed to be? I had an idea of a director that it was almost like Eric von Stroheim with a megaphone screaming and having answers for everything. And I realized I was completely wrong. And every time more and more, but especially on this one, that is within a long process, we became a family. You know, this compared the shooting of 2 months, 2 years, we are so close. I know that's why you are so connected. You know, I've been 5 years with these people. So for me now, directing is not about giving orders, it's about listening. I think every time I listen more, and in this film, I listen more than any other film that I made before. So I had a great art director, I had a great animation director, character designer, and we all wanted the same thing. We wanted to tell the story in the best possible way. Yes, I had the treasure map. It's my script. I'm the director. I'm a writer-director. And they respected me. I didn't have to impose anything. I just had to listen and try to make the right choice to tell the story in the best possible way. So if there are some people listening and they are directors or they want to be directors, just listen to your team and just, first of all, get the best possible team. And that's just definitely a question of, you have to get the best. And a director is as good as the team, you know?
Animated features being the ultimate team sport. I mean, he said it incredibly well. I mean, we've said until we're hoarse that it was 1,000 people working on our film, and each one of them is a fabulous artist in their own right. You know, not just our various department heads, you know, our leads, but going down to every storyboard artist and every animator. And we encourage them to speak up and send their ideas up, because we've all got blind spots. You know, there were places in our own film. A great example would be the scene that takes place in Mumbai, Spider-Man India's world, where it was actually a team of our Indian and Indian American animators who spoke up as the scene was nearing completion. They wrote an email to us and basically said that, you know, we think this could be better. That this, you know, it doesn't reflect our experience as Indians. And look, the process of making an animated film is a long process. It's an expensive process. So, you know, your gut reaction, I love that Pablo said you got to be willing to listen, because a lot of times you might say, well, respectfully, it's too late. But instead, what we did was we paused production. We assembled a writer's room of Indian writers and Indian American writers and comedians, and we rebroke the entire scene, then rewrote it and rebuilt it. And a scene that, if I'm being perfectly honest, earlier on in the process, when we screened it, we felt was one of our weakest sequences, turned into one of our favorites in the entire movie. And that really wouldn't have happened if the artists who, you know, instead of just doing their jobs and being quiet, didn't speak up. And the people like the directors and the producers, we weren't willing to receive that, not with defensiveness, but in the same spirit with which they were giving it, which was the spirit of making this film better. And it really is. It belongs to, you know, we keep it sounds repetitive, but the reason we keep saying it is that right when we finished the film, we told our crew we wanted all of them to watch this film and see their contributions and really feel like this film was theirs, because it wouldn't have turned out, I think, the way it had if both sides hadn't been open that way.
Pete, what did you learn?
A hell of a lot, honestly. I mean, the experience was top and bottom of just, you know, reorganizing what I thought I knew and learning a lot of things. One layer in particular is about trying to communicate culture in a sort of a fantasy way was really challenging, you know, like trying to create, you know, these different elements and have their own sort of, you know, unique cultures was sort of a balancing act that was tumultuous in terms of growing up with movies and when you could feel sort of othered by just a stereotype of a character, you know, of like an Asian character that's just really sort of written in a thin way, you know, how that would affect you as a kid was something that I was terrified of in trying to build fire characters or water characters or earth characters. And as we started, they were very abstract. And people just took this, oh, these are aliens from another planet. And very quickly you had to understand you have to ground them in some way. And what appropriation is and what just an immaculate reality is really sort of, you were sort of ping-ponging back and forth with it and trying to find that balance. And from the sort of the clothing, the accents, the, you know, how broken, what do they sound like? What are they feeling like? How, you know, is the music going to denote a culture? And it was all in an effort to try to create these unique cultures in each element, but at the same time be grounded enough for an audience to connect to. Because when you veer too far off of it, it got too, you know, weird. But I remember feeling a little sense of joy when we had an audience preview where there was a question sort of asked afterwards about, like, you know, where do you think these fire characters are from? And you know, one person said Irish because there was a joke that the T-shirt said "Kiss me, I'm Firish," and another person said, "Oh no, they're South American because of this thing and that." And like everyone was jumping into the characters in their own way, and it was that sort of a sign of what that sort of hard-fought battle of discovering what culture is in a movie like this was. But something, yeah, that we're hard on and are very proud of.
愚かなことに僕は風立ちぬが終わった後、宮崎駿がこれが俺の最後の作品であるとそう言い出した時に僕はそれを信じたんですよ。それが愚かって意味なんですけれどね。だからまさかもう一本作りたいっていうことを言い出すとはね、強いほども思っていなかったんです。だからまあね、今回まあ作って改めて思ったこと、映画監督に引退はありませんね。それを知らなかった僕は愚かでした。はい。今回つくづく思ったのは、この映画の中で僕が一番成功したなと思うキャラクターはやっぱり詐欺男、アオサギなんですよね。そうするとその映画の中でね、詐欺がの中から人間が出てくるじゃないですか。あれに一番感心したんですよね。でこれって本来アメリカではキャラクターアニメーションと言われて、ね、で本来そういうキャラクターアニメーションをやるっていうのがアニメーションの魅力の大きな一つだったはずが、最近そういうことにみんなね挑戦しなかったって気がするんですよ。だからそういうことで言うとね、まあ宮崎駿っていうのはね本能なんでしょうけれど、それをやってのけた。それでまあ参考までに申し上げるとね、詐欺の中から人間が出てくる。これ実を言うと CG では絶対できないはずなんですよ。僕の知る限り。 だからそういう意味でも面白いものを皆さんに提供できたんじゃないかなって気がしてます。
Nick, you had to rebuild this movie several times. What did you learn? What was the biggest takeaway from this experience?
I don't know if it was the biggest takeaway of the experience, but I feel like a big thing I learned, and I think it's also why we have one of the best years in animation, is leadership. I think everybody that's here on this panel, because I've seen their films, you have one of the best years of animation because of leadership. People who are taking their representation of the subject matter seriously, people who are listening to their people. Animation is full of these artists who are all of diverse backgrounds, who have diverse stories, and we are just people who communicate with them and figure out how to get that onto a screen. And I'm gonna pat myself and these guys on the back right now, because it takes a lot of work to do that. Unfortunately, the industry does not want to do that. Unfortunately, the industry is not ready for that, and I know the fight that we all had to do that. Because they want just the gourmet cheeseburger. They want what has been done before and made it look expensive. They just want to make funny, silly films over and over again. And you could feel everyone, in my conversations now, the industry's clamming up again and they just want to do silly stuff. So I know how hard all these guys, including myself, had to fight to represent important themes, to tell diverse stories in visually diverse ways, and I hope future animators continue to push whoever their leaders are to do so, because that's how we will continue to advance this medium.
I think that's a wonderful thing to wrap up on. And thank you all so much. I love you all. I love all of your movies, and it's always so great to see you. So thank you for coming today. Be the first to know about upcoming Wrap screenings and get access to exclusive content and premium events by becoming a Wrap Pro member. For all screening information, including past screenings you might have missed, please visit TheWrap.com.